Conversation is up in America about women's right to abortion, and it's not only in America, it's in Norway as well. And it's a conversation that infuriates me because I think we shouldn't ever be having that conversation because the real problem when it comes to unwanted pregnancies are men. Because every unwanted pregnancy is caused by a male orgasm. I mean, a woman can have 500 million orgasms and it can never lead to pregnancy, and she can never have an orgasm and still get pregnant. God knows that. But every time.
All right, so I mean, we're already starting out with shaming tactics here. We know that. Okay, let's move on. We can get past this part right here. However, I think it's interesting that she now this is the mindset here, okay? And again, track with me here. You know, well, she's an idiot, right? Well, yeah, but listen to what the narrative is saying here, because this is part of a narrative.
Time a man has an orgasm, he could potentially get someone pregnant. So, a way to eliminate abortions altogether is mandatory vasectomies. They're reversible, and I think that until a man wants to have a baby, he can go in front of a panel where he has to prove that he is emotionally, intellectually, financially mature enough to take care of a baby for the rest of his life.
Imagine me saying, honey, well, you can go and freeze your eggs, and darling, you can also go to a sperm bank and inseminate yourself, artificial insemination. You don't have to find Mr. Right. But the thing is you're going to have to do first, darling, is you're going to have to go before this panel to prove that you are responsible, that you would be a good mother, that you would not raise a criminal or a drug addict or what would happen if the kid has, is autistic? What would happen if the kid has Down syndrome? What would you do? Like go before that panel? And I would presume that if we were going to have these birthing panels, right? Remember that we're gonna you need a license to be a parent. One would presume it would apply equally, right? Right? I mean, what about women? What about guys? You want to have that conversation? No, you don't. Because the presumption is that women will do it right.
Because what's not reversible? Forcing a woman to go through with an unwanted pregnancy.
Okay. Now I stopped it here for a reason. The reason why she gets the eyes kind of gloss over, and you can see the whites of her eyes in this, right? The reason for that, and I have to explain this to you right now before we move on, because that is the existential fear of women. The existential fear of women is that they will be forced into having a child that they did not choose to have. And that has been an evolutionary, existential fear. It's part of women's evolutionary firmware to be afraid of being forced into having a child with a man that they don't want. You want to know why rape is such a hot button issue for women? That's because it is the ultimate expression of taking that choice away from women. That's really what it boils down to. Now, yeah, is it violation? Sure. Is it violent? Yeah, it can be. Whatever the going definition of it is right now. However, the root fear, the root reason why it causes this right here is because it's the existential fear. It's removing reproductive choice from women. It's removing the ability for women to say, I choose that guy and I don't choose that guy. That's really what it comes down to. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Again, I'm holding up the mirror here. Okay. I just work here. I'm just telling you why this is so compelling. And it's to the point of obsession for women right now that they have to make it in terms of comparison. And I'm going to talk to you guys here in a second. That's why I started bringing up, that's why I prefaced this with the idea of binary extremes. And, if you say one thing about one guy, then you have to say about women, then you have to say something about men, right? Okay. Or vice versa. We don't have that conversation when it comes to men. And I'll tell you why, because women lock men out of that conversation. If you don't have a uterus, you don't get to say anything. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then why do I have to consider something about men when I present some statistics that are unflattering to women? You don't have a say. And that's what really pisses women off, right? Now, again, let's rewind the tape here. We go back to hypergamy. We go back to our evolutionary firmware. We go back to our ancestral past. When a woman is breeding with a man or is reproducing with a man, let's just say. Remember, that's the breeding. Having sex with a guy is the proximate cause the ultimate cause is, of course, the ultimate purpose, I guess, is to reproduce, right? So when you remove by inch or by mile control over that process, over women's control over hypergamy, that's when they start to lose their minds. So when we start having this conversation, and we're going to, and this is why I did today's topic, we're going to have this conversation very soon in the Supreme Court of the United States for sure. As I said before, this is the narrative. You have to follow the narrative. But the reason, the latent purpose of that narrative is the existential fear. Losing 100% unilateral control over the reproductive process. And that's pretty much what we've given women since about 1965. I mean, technically, you could make a case maybe even a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later. But the fact remains that once we invented hormonal birth control, we sort of incrementally ceded power, or acceded, I guess would be the word, right? There's your vocabulary word today. We've given over the reproductive process, at least in Western cultures and Westernizing cultures right now, over to women. That's why she's losing her mind. I think she's in Norway. Is that what she was saying? But that's why they're losing their minds right now. And it's not because, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, the first thing out of women's mouth was, oh my God, they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. That was the first thing. It's not like, oh, she's gone. Oh, she did a lot of good things. Oh, she did this. Oh, she did that. No, the first concern was, we're going to lose the right to have, on-demand abortions. And that's the conversation that we're going to have. I believe it's the Supreme Court, probably in fall, is going to take up a case in Mississippi about late-term abortions. Now, personally, if you're going to ask me, I don't think anything's going to come of this. We've seen this happen over and over and over again, but it's going to be a very nice distraction from other things for a while. But the reason why it's such a big deal, and the reason why you're seeing videos like this pop up right now in May, is because probably around October, we're going to have this is like what's called tilling the fields, right? You've got to have so that they can be harvested later on in October, probably, because I think they're going to consider the Mississippi case in October. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't think that they have a date for it just yet, but they have already decided that they're going to hear it. So with that said, we have to see what's going on. Why is this such a big deal? Why is it that women celebrate when abortion becomes legal in Argentina or Ireland, for example, like especially, previously or formerly Catholic countries, or maybe presently Catholic countries, when women get the right to choose, right? When women get the right to free, safe abortion, it's time for celebration. Why is that? Why do women fight tooth and nail to maintain the right to end a pregnancy? Why is that so bloody important? And the reason for that is those eyes right there. That's the reason. It's the existential fear. No woman should have to be forced to have a child that she doesn't want to have with some guy that she doesn't want to have it with. I'm not saying I'm not saying I disagree. You shouldn't. But that's where the root of this comes from. That's where this, if you want to call it madness, right? This obsession comes from. It's a fear that it's easily it's a commodity, right? It's easily commercialized, and so therefore you get she felt so impassioned about this that she had to go and create this video. I don't want to say it's viral. Maybe it's viral now, but it's going, or this is being passed around Twitter right now. So I wanted to set that out there, because the existential fear of women is to lose hypergamous control, to lose sexual selection, to lose unilateral power over who gets born and who doesn't get born, even if that means ending that guy's genetic legacy in utero. So it's not just selecting the guy. It's not just who she's spreading her legs for, right? It's not just the guy who can't keep it in his pants. It's even after the fact. And once that's happened, then yes, it is a woman's choice to end the pregnancy or not. It's not the man's choice. It's the woman's choice.
The emotional and physical trauma she's going to carry with her for the rest of her life. And that baby is also for the rest of their lives. So if you're watching this and you think that a mandatory vasectomy is way too invasive, you can't do that to all men, it's actually less invasive than an abortion. The recovery is quicker. It's about the same cost. And if you think that that's invasive, you can't tell a woman to go through with an unwanted pregnancy.
All right. First off, No one is telling a woman she can't go through. She has to go through with it. Okay. No one is telling. Ultimately, once the sperm leaves your body, you are effectively powerless. Gentlemen, that's why I keep saying, that's why what is it? Is it 4 or 5? Iron Rule of Tomasi. I believe it's 5. I can't remember my own rules. Always control the birth. Always wrap the rascal. And that's really, if essentially that's your only means of birth control these days. Now, people will throw this at me and say, well, Rollo, don't you know that they're already working on like something that's reversible? Don't you know that okay, they've been saying that for a very long time. I remember when Vagisil or Vasagil or whatever, Vasagil, I think, Vasagel, I think is what it was called. Was a big deal. Oh, there are clinical trials in India. The problem is that it like the male pill like completely reduces your libido because it like drops your testosterone even lower than it would probably have been for you to even try that in the first place. So condoms really are your only effective means of birth control, much less, STDs and all that other good stuff. Yeah, Vasagil. Sorry, it's not Vagisil. Vagisil is a feminine wash. Vasagil or whatever it is actually a trial. I don't know if it's, I haven't seen much of that in the news, but it brings up an interesting question that I have addressed on occasion. I certainly did back in 2015 when I was writing preventive medicine. What would happen if men had, if we could do this? Like whenever I see these things, whenever women say, well, we need to just, and I'm going to show you another example of this here in just a second. We need to have men have mandatory vasectomies that are reversible. Well, first of all, they're not reversible for the most part, or that's very difficult to have them reversed. And again, we'll talk about invasive process as well. To have one is one thing, to have it reversed is another thing. So you're already looking at twice the invasiveness. So let's just call a spade here. But I don't think that really makes much difference, because really what is being suggested here is that there ought to be some new technology that will in some way ensure that men can turn it off and then turn it back on again, right? Your ability to, and it should be mandatory. Like once you hit puberty, you get your mandatory, essentially what it is your own sterilization. And I think this is kind of a dangerous thought, and I'll tell you why later, but the narrative here is that vasectomy equals abortion. If it weren't for you guys, if you could just keep it in your pants, then we wouldn't have all these abortions. Bullshit. Okay. Women decide who to abort and what child to abort and what child not to abort. That's the simplest answer that I have. Well, men are responsible for that. I hear this. By the way, I hear this from both sides. So it's not just tradcons. Like tradcons will say the same thing, right? They'll be like, well, if men were just, if men were just men, then women would behave too. Right? Just keep it in your pants, man, and wait till you're married. First of all, that's probably not going to happen in an age where marriage is the single worst decision a man can make for himself right now. I wish it were different. I wish you could all I wish happiness and long life on all of you guys. I wish you could have a great marriage. I really wish that was possible. However, the way we do it right now, it is an unconscionable contract. So when you say, oh, well, you're going to have to wait until marriage. Really? I think in the latent purpose of that is fantastic. It's a great idea, but I also think that it is untenable in the new order. It's untenable in 2021 and has been for quite some time. Really has been untenable since the advent of hormonal birth control, but that's neither here nor there. But so you'll get that from the tradcon side, and then now we hear it from sort of the liberal leftists, like this girl right here, I would presume. In fact, if you saw let's see, where did I put it? It's not the banners. It's this. If you saw today's thumbnail, against abortion, have a vasectomy, or better yet, castrate yourself. Okay. Look at facebook.com/liberal and proud of it. Okay. So this is the messaging. This is what we get today. So it's not so much about like, well, if you're against a woman's right to choose, then you should just cut your dick off. That's basically the message. Geld yourself. And that has been something that I think this has been pervasive for a very long time. And I'll explain to you why I think that is as well. I want to show you another thing. Now, before you guys say, well, she's just a whack job. How can you put her up there? Well, let's go and have a look at Pamela Keith Esquire, who was, I think she still is, a congresswoman in Florida as well. And I don't know what district she's in, but this was back in May 15th. Oh, well, gosh, 2 years ago, 2019. 81% of U.S. boys are circumcised at birth. Why not do a reversible vasectomy at the same time? Now we're going to have the conversation about circumcision, and at the same time, we're going to snip them. You're making a lot of friends here, Pam. Then men have the procedure reversed when they prove they want a child and can pay for it. But we don't have any. Okay, well, here's your chance, ladies. If guys are going to be expected of this, well, what are we going to expect from women? To be, let's see, have a child, that they want a child and that they can pay for it and that they're ready for it and they're mature enough for it and they're not going to be a burden on the state because they are just now deciding that they want to have kids. Should we have that as well? If that's the criteria for birthing children or for even, reproducing, and that's what this is reproductive control, right? No more unwanted pregnancies, no more abortions, no more freedom, but why be picky, right? Now, when I've thrown this up there, or when I've talked about this, it was a joke. It was a joke. Can't you tell it's a joke? Oh, is it? How about this one? Is this a joke? You know what? Vasectomies are reversible. Why not just make all men get them? And then if they're truly ready to be a father, they can undo them. What's that? You have problems with this? Yes, you're right. It's wrong to regulate men's bodies like that. It's a joke. It's a joke. Oh, can't you take a joke? Oh, no, it's not a joke. Stop abortion at the source. Vasectomies are reversible. They are. Really? Are they? Because as far as I know, it's pretty difficult to do it. Now, I don't have a vasectomy. I know a few people who have had them before. I even know one individual who's tried to have his reversed. Make every young man have one. When he's deemed financially and emotionally fit to be a father, it will be reversed. Well, should we not then hold women accountable for that as well? When women are deemed financially and emotionally fit to be a mother, it will be reversed. Wow, let's have mandatory sterilization of women. And we'll just say, hey, you don't have to worry about it. As soon as you can prove that as soon as we've got your 401k, or no, as soon as we've got your W-2s here, we can find out what you're paying in taxes. Then we'll decide whether or not you're a high enough earner to be a breeder. What's that? Did the idea of regulating a man's body make you uncomfortable? Then mind your fucking business. Oh, sounds like it kind of goes along with this little chestnut here. Where do we go? Oh, this one. Reasons why women have abortions. Nobody's business. Nobody's business. Nobody's business. Nobody's business. Ha ha ha. Guess what you're going to see coming up, but throughout this summer. You're going to see that. That's going to be in your feed. Coming up in your Instagram, your Facebook, even your church ladies, by the way. It's not just going to be your leftist liberal friends. It's also going to be your tradcon friends as well. Keep it in your pants. What if God? Well, we don't want to take away unilateral power over the reproductive process of women. We got to let the little ladies decide, because clearly we got to put men before a panel to see if they're financially and emotionally stable and everything else stable before they can reproduce. But women are by default naturally going to be okay with that. They're really good at that, right?